Okay.
All right. And I think we're a minute or two past, so I'll get started and we can get on with this. Okay. So thanks everybody who's joined. Welcome to HbbTV's webinar on improving interoperability tools for Dash and Dash streaming. I'm Bob Campbell. I'm chair of the Improving Interoperability Task Force at HbbTV. And we'll be hearing also from Yuha from Sophia Digital and Waka from No More, who are the representatives of the companies that built the tools that we'll be demonstrating later. So let me just crack on with a bit of an introduction. And I wanted to explain how the tools that we'll be talking about fitted into the overall suite of things that HbbTV provides to aid in interoperability. We have a device test suite that we have been building up for many years. It has a large number of tests in it. We have the plug fests that we operate at IRT's premises in Munich, and I'll talk a little bit about those as well. And we commissioned a reference application, and that's been around now for a little while. And more recently, we have extended the -IF-Content Validator with the support of DVB to validate the HbbTV and DVB profiles. And these are all kind of complementary tools that aid interoperability of the HbbTV ecosystem. The test suite is the platform on which interoperability is built, if you like to think of it like that way. It is a set of tests that provide at least a minimum level of conformance of devices that enter the market. So devices are required to pass the test suite by a number of platforms around Europe as part of their certification and trademark process. It covers, well, it contains around 2,000 tests at present. It covers HbbTV 2.0.1 with more tests coming for op apps and 2.0.2 in the forthcoming next release, which is due, I think, in July. There are 3 releases through the year. There are additional materials that build on this from various regional platforms, Freeview Play TV, to give an example. And these, as I say, build a foundation that devices are compliant, are conformant to what's tested in the test suite, that all devices that have passed that test suite have a common support for the features within the test suite. It's not comprehensive to the extent that there are things we know don't work as well, and there's always material that could be added to that test suite to increase the coverage or address specific areas in the field, and we always welcome feedback on this test suite so that we can improve it and add to it where issues are found. So we also, as I said, run Plugfest, and here's a couple of pictures from the event in Munich. It's an opportunity for application developers to get together with device manufacturers and execute their apps and content on models that are available, that are probably in development, that are coming out in the market in the near future, and address any issues with the developers. So it's an event that takes place 3 times a year, and I think there's one coming up in July. So that really covers those 2 tools. I'm going to hand over now to Waka, who's going to talk about the HbbTV and Dvbe-Content Validator, which was commissioned to extend the -IF tool. And Heinrich, if you can pass to Waka, that would be great.
Yes, done.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Waka. I'm from Novo Research. We are a company based in Munich. So let's see if, yeah, I hope you're seeing my screen now and can hear me well. Good. So we're first talking about this HbbTV Dvbe-Content Validator. So the things that I would like to introduce is, what is this tool? Why would anybody need this HbbTV Dvbe Validator? Why would they use it? And well, there is this tool available. Then we're going to talk about what this tool is and how to use it, what are its features, and so on and so forth. And this tool is constantly under improvements and addition of features and so on and so forth. So then we're going to discuss what are the next steps for this validator software, how it's evolving. It would be nice to hear feedback from people who could use it and give us some feedback how we could improve it, which direction it should be going into next. We're gonna, during these few slides that I'm gonna show, see the resources that are relevant for this validator, so to access it, its source code, and so on and so forth. So these would be some of the things that would be the focus of the discussion. So the first thing is, why would somebody need this HbbTV Dvbe validator? There can be a variety of use cases, as colleague Bob has just mentioned about this Plugfest. Different players would be interested in such a tool. So for example, you are implementing a dash feature, you're developing an encoder or a dash packager, and you've implemented a new feature, and you would like to see how it conforms to, or how aligned it is to the specification, so you can test your content or the feature that you've just integrated with this tool. Or you are developing a feature in your player, and well, the feature is not working, and you're wondering what's wrong with probably the content that you have, so you would like to run the test against the content that you have. Or in general, you're a service provider and things are not working, so you might want to check the content that you're having. Or in general, you want to investigate what features does the content have. So this tool can help you get some insight into the features that the content is providing, so that you can see, okay, whether a player would support it, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the use cases, obviously not all of them, but would give you a high-level idea about this. So what exactly is the tool? We're gonna go online to see this tool. Obviously, this is an online service that is accessible to people, where they can use it and test their content. This HbbTV Validator, as mentioned before, is an extension to the -if conformist software, and the main workflow of this tool is that, okay, it's online available. You provide it with the manifest or the -MPD, and it will check the manifest on a high level. I'll tell you the details of what is checked exactly, and then the segments that are pointed to by this manifest are also possibly tested using this tool. So then the information that it will provide is then relevant to the content generation people, or service provider, player developers. So what exactly does this tool test things against? It has a bunch of specifications implemented that it's checking. Obviously, first and foremost, it checks against the MPEG dash specification, and then the two bold specifications that are the main key point for discussion today: the Dvbe MPEG dash profile version 1.1.1 and the HbbTV 1.5 specification. And then to date, it covers -if interoperability point version 4.2. The first four bullets are more focusing on the specifications that are dealing with how manifest is created and the segments together. And then the next three specifications are more related to the content itself, the media data itself. So we've implemented CTA wave content conformance into this tool, and ISO-based media file format, and MP4 file format, which is the basis of the encapsulated content, and also the CMAP specification is implemented. So what then this tool is going to check, it's going to take the dash MPD on a high level. Obviously, the MPD has to conform to the XML specification. It checks that. It checks if it conforms to the dash schema. And then it will check if it conforms to the MPEG dash MPD rules. So different flags or different features of dash can exist in certain combinations and cannot exist in certain combinations. There are a lot of conformance points in the dash specification, so they would be checked. Then, as mentioned, it can check the segment itself for against ISO-based media file format specification, and also MPEG dash specification has some ISO-based media file format rules itself. So those would be checked. Also, as we discussed, CMAP specification can be checked. Cross-representation validation. So each MP4 file or the segments are checked on their own, but not just that. If you have multiple representation, for example, in an adaptation set, this tool will compare the timing and the metadata in the individual representation against each other if the segments have aligned start times and so on and so forth. And then there are flags in the MPD that have to be cross-checked against the segment data themselves. So across MPD segment validation is done as well. So these could be the broad category of checks that are performed. Then for live MPDs, meaning for dynamic services, there is a segment access validation tool provided as well. We're going to discuss about this in a bit. And just to be informed that this tool goes as deep as ISO-based media file format level, that is the MP4 file boxes and so on. It does not check any track data or media elementary stream checks as well. So it's not going to go into your H.264 AVC stream to check if this video is conforming to AVC specification or not, for example. So these are the group of specification and the groups of checks that are done. The main topic of discussion today, the Dvbe HbbTV features, what features are checked. So I'm going to briefly go to the complete document. I'm going to go there later to show all the source code and the documentation, but in a GitHub repository, these all the complete list of checks that are implemented into the tool. For example, from the Dvbe dash specification and HbbTV specification, color-coded in different colors is shown in this documentation. But yeah, we're going to go into the source code in a bit to see where this is hosted. So, as mentioned before, the tool is available publicly so that content can be tested against it. Just as a reference, -if hosts a database as well, so it contains some sample dash content that you can use as an example to test against this tool. So yeah, let's go directly to the tool itself. So here it is on this URL, conformance.-if.org. It's accessible both via HTTPS and HTTP, but obviously if your content is HTTP, currently mixed content is not allowed, so you will need to use an HTTP-based interface. So here is the possibility to provide the URL of the MPD that you would like to test. For example, I would try to test this MPD, if this is HTTP based, so this wouldn't work here. Let's quickly go to a local version that I have, so we can use here. So as I was mentioning, you can provide the URL of the MPD. And another mechanism could be that if you have a local file, for example, here you see an MPD file, you can select it or drag and drop here. So this now file is selected. and you can upload it from your local machine, this MPD, and this would be tested then. Obviously, if you have a local file, then it needs to have the base URL so that the content can be located. So let's do this again. So I have one content here that I run the test against. So I start the test, and it quickly goes through first testing the MPD for conformance, and the results are shown in this sort of tree structure. This obviously the MPD is fully valid, so you see green checks, and then it's going through the individual representations and checking each representation for conformance. So the test, it was run locally, so it's completed pretty quickly. Online version will take a bit more time, but here you see obviously this content is completely conforming. Right. So you see the results of the MPD conformance. There is a possibility to see the list of the features in this MPD as well. So all the different features that are used in this MPD are shown in this link. Then individual representations are processed and the logs are shown. So the logs are color coded. If there is any error, that would be in red color, and it will be shown also on the interface. That's not the case for this content. Then there are some warnings and some informational prints in blue that are shown here. So when you go online, you will be able to access this, these results for some time after running tests. So your session will be deleted almost in half an hour. And maybe I give you another example in which there is an error, so you can see what happens. So we purposefully add an error into this MPD, so it's processing the segment now. And by the way, you will see that it's not downloading all of the content. It just downloads a very small part of the whole content. So for example, out of several hundred MBs, it just downloads a few hundred kilobytes. So even less than 1% of the content, because it just needs to get the boxes of the ISO-based media file format, and the rest of the content is skipped so that it saves the amount of data to be downloaded. So now here there is a log with an error, and this shows that the bandwidth of the representation was set to a too low a value, and then it recommends the value that you should be setting. So this is shown as an error. Okay, so this is mostly for the static content, and I'll give you also an example of how you would run a dynamic MPD, meaning that the service type is dynamic. So this service is also provided by -if, live MPD. So we run the test here, and what the tool is going to do is that it's going to take a snapshot of this live content and a few segments that it will test against. But another possibility that you will see here is this dynamic timing, which leads to a different user interface. So here is the same MPD, and we start the test here, and it starts processing. And after a while, it shows you a pass mark. So what was it doing? So if you click the process details, what this tool is doing is that for each of the segments that are supposed to be available, it checks each such segment at its availability start time and also at its availability end time, that the segment was indeed made available by the server. So it's kind of a timing check for your server that it's making the segments available at the announced times or not. So here you see the summary that, okay, it has run 110 tests and all of them are successful. So this is related to the dynamic service conformance. Okay, yeah, let's go back to the slides. So the source code this is an open source tool, and this source code is provided on GitHub. So the link is provided to -if conformance. The tool has several submodules. So for example, here you can see the HbbTV Dvbe submodule, and the issues and the documentation, the complete documentation of the remaining features of this tool is provided online as well. Okay, so the working we already we've gone through how the input is done, the processing. So we've seen all of this, how the results are shown, the different color codings, and we saw this dynamic type FPD testing as well. So recently we've done what are the recent updates. So by like end of last year, 80% of our NPD tests were taking almost 7 seconds to complete, and recently we've done some speed improvements. So now 80% of our tests are taking less than 3 seconds. So we have got almost 60% reduction of time. We've implemented HTTPS access and GDPR. And codecs, well, we are every now and then integrating new and newer codecs, AC3, AC4, EC3, the sample descriptions, and so on and so forth. And new codecs are being assigned. Min buffer bandwidth calculations have been recently updated. -IF guidelines are being updated very frequently. We have done some UI updates as well. So what's next for this tool? Yeah, so newer and newer codecs are arriving, and we are implementing them in this tool as they come and as they are being prioritized. Protocols, delivery protocols, meaning if there are extensions to -IF guidelines or the Dash standard itself, those new updates are being integrated into the software. We have a plan in the pipeline to completely revamp the UI, but most importantly, we want to add a positive reporting feature into the software, meaning that in near future, not just the errors are going to be reported, but you will be able to see all the tests that are run so that you can judge what are the features in general that are provided by a specific content. And then there are some more features that will be coming in the will be added to this tool in upcoming days. So yeah, that's as much as I would have liked to talk about this tool. And yeah, the next thing is the Dash DRM reference application. So
thank you, Weka. Thank you very much. We'll take some questions at the end, if we may. I want to make sure we get time to get through all of this. I think in the interest of kind of sanity of everybody, if you have a question, please put your name in the chat window. So just raise your hand metaphorically through the chat window to let us know that you'd like to ask a question at the end, and then I'll ask Heinrich to sort of go through in sequence and get everybody a chance to raise a question. So if you do have questions, please just put a note in the chat window to everybody so that we can go through that at the end. Right, we'll crack on with a presentation now on the Dash DRM reference application, and I'll hand over to Juha for that part of the presentation.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good. My name is Juha Joki, so I'm from Sofia Digital, and we made the reference app. So I will try to put this on the presentation. Okay, you should see the, oh, it's skipped to the first slide, but just a minute. Okay, so now here we are. So this is the official name, the Dash DRM reference application. And briefly about the features, it's the HbbTV application, the client application, which has the player for HbbTV 1.5, HbbTV 2.0, and also MSE EME. It officially supports PlayReady and Marlin DRMs, and unofficially also Widevine if someone wants to try that one. It's also available, but not in the official way. It has the adaptive video resolutions from the lowest to the UHD resolutions. It also has many features regarding Dash, so data queues, Dash events, multiple audio switching, subtitles for both in-band and out-of-band, and also has more recently added live dash things, including multiple move MDAT segments in a single segment test. So kind of preparing for low latency testing, and in this context, it's more kind of testing that how all the devices would react to signaling that is preparing for low latency. So it is not an official low latency test, but just to test that the devices are kind of working. And I should mention that the main point of the reference app was to just to get as many devices working as well as possible. So while the previous presentation was talking about validation and let's say correct formats, we are trying here to get everything working as well as possible, because in the past there has been, even if the content is fully compliant, there still might be some problems in the field. And also this project consists of the complete tool chain that can be used for creating more and suitable test materials. So here is briefly about the client application, how it works. You can all check this later. We can go this quite quickly, but basically it's a VOD application that looks like a VOD application. It reads it's a catalog file, and then according to the device, how it should, or if it's a HbbTV 1.5 device or HbbTV 2.0 device, it will select the correct video player and then start the playback. Depending on the DRM, it will use the DRM agent and -GAS library for acquiring the correct license. And also if it has subtitles or events, then it goes to the little bit different. The content generation tools are available in the GitHub as well. So it is using widely recognized open source tools. The whole application itself is open source as well. So you can use, or it will use FFmpeg for transcoding and MP4 box for encryption and packaging it for the dash. And also in the GitHub there is scripts for creating Play Ready and Express Play, or Microsoft Play Ready and Express Play Ready DRM servers. And now we can briefly, there is animated GIF here in that shows how the application itself is presented, but I will try now to change the application. So here it's running in the Microsoft Edge browser, and you can in the top selection there is different segments that are part of the application. So there is first an ODRM that you can just check that the dash content itself is working, and then there is different DRMs. Also clear key is included here. And then there is a live section which has single and multi-move MDAT features. And then there is some settings that you can, if you are making changes to the video catalog, you can reload it inside the application. And then you can set the mode explicitly to something else. For example, if you have a 1.5 device, but you want to use the 2.0 player, you can force it from here. And also there is a possibility to save the application log to the server that you are running the application from. So we can just have a look how the video content looks. It's a very familiar video streams to anyone who is in the industry. So we are using these open source videos, and there you can see the subtitles going below the screen, and you can use the color keys to change subtitles, and this way to check whether everything is working as well as it should. So this was not really designed for PC use, so not all the features are working so well in the browser environment, but you can check that I'm now on mute, but in this multiple audio test, for example, it should say the language of the audio track before in the machine speech. So basically, this is how it's used. So we have targeted for very easy to use features and easy accessibility to the application. Now we can have a look at the GitHub. So everything that I've been talking about is available as an MIT license. So you can take this application and fork it and modify it and take it anywhere you like. Here in the GitHub there is also the issue tracker. So there is some open issues still for me to or for us to solve. And there is also quite extensive instructions how to use the application. So here is everything that you should expect. What happens when you try the applications for. So if you are if you have a test engineer who is not so familiar with how the system works, here is some screenshots and animations that will show you how the application should work, and the results should be pretty clear when referring to these instructions here. So you can all take a look at that afterwards. And also there is then instructions about the tools, so or the content creation tools. So you can have a go that you can just go and check how to create your own test videos. So there is a complete instructions how the content was created in this application. And here is even more detailed instructions how to actually use the content creation tools itself. And all the videos that are used in the application are listed in this videos URL. That there is the MPDs, there is the keys that are being used, and so on. So it is a complete set of content that you can use to test your Dash implementation in your device. And also we are collecting all the results internally and also externally that will keep on track that how the new and existing devices are working with this application. Okay, we can go back to the slides. Okay. And here is some instructions how to use it and how to help in the development. So the current live version is always available in this refab.hbbtv.org. There is a separate instances for the production version, that is a stable version that is updated in line with the test suite, so only a few times per year. And then there is a staging version that has more frequent updates with new features and perhaps some fixes as well. If there is an urgent need for a fix, then we will push it to production in a controlled manner. But the staging will include all the latest stuff that and also the latest content that is available. The code and assets are available in this GitHub location. You can report the issues to the GitHub repository. There's also a transport stream file that you can just copy and stream it out in your local office if you have only a streamer available, so you don't need any AIT inserter to test it, so you can just use the TS file. And as I said, it's MIT licensed, so you can fork or contribute as you please. Just tell us if you do. There has been some people who have forked this, and there is some surprises there coming that we are using your application and it does and that. And so if you fork it, do tell us, and we will then help you. And of course, you can drop us an email. There is instructions how to contact us at any point in time if you have difficulties or problems, or if you have something in mind regarding this application. I could still remind that the GitHub repository itself is completely public. So if you have something that is sensitive, please drop us an email privately, and because everyone can see the issues in the GitHub. Okay, that's it from me.
Okay, thank you, Juha. And I see we have a couple of questions coming in. Please do think about it. If you have any questions, please put a note in the chat window. So I'm just going to summarize and kind of wrap up a little bit. And I just need to get to where we were. There we go. Okay, so as I said, we have these two new tools, or relatively new tools, that complement our existing device test suite and the plugfest that HbbTV has supported and operated for many years. I think as both Waqar and you have explained, they're complementary. They address different problems and go about them in slightly different ways, as the validator is aimed at content conformance. The reference application provides an example of working content and application code that has been tested to work on a wide range of devices in the market today. It's worth saying we commissioned the work to both implement it and test it on a set of devices already in the market. So we have data anonymized, but covering receivers going back several years to show that they support the features, and the code has been written in a non-device specific way, but enabled but written in a way to adapt for the capabilities of devices. And then we have the device test suite, which supports all of this and is a basic foundation on which these two other tools can operate. So by ensuring that devices are compliant with the test suite, we know that the basic functionality required I get muted for a second. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So that's that. Can you see my screen? I'm not quite sure if Heinrich, can you make me
make you moderator, but you could just share your screen. That would work.
Oh, sorry.
As well.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Confused there. Okay, so I just want to do a short plug for the Improving Interop Task Force. There are further resources up on the website at this URL, the resource library URL, and the task force exists in HbbTV to raise issues of interoperability that are appearing in the market that are affecting multiple platforms and devices. HbbTV has to respect antitrust rules and can't be party to sharing details of specific implementations, and we can help put you in touch with the right contacts at various receiver manufacturers and broadcasters to help get into specific problems with specific receivers, but we can't, as HbbTV, sort of get into the performance of a particular manufacturer. However, if there are general issues that are affecting multiple different platforms, we can look at those and maybe direct to a working group in HbbTV, spec clarifications, gaps in the test suite, additions to the reference app or the validator, and so on and so forth. So we welcome input to this group. You can contact us through the list below. And now I want to thank everybody for attending, and for the two presenters, Waqar and Juha, for their presentations and ask for questions. I know there were two that were posted, and I know Juha, you've tried to answer them, but let's just, for everybody's benefit, just go through them. So the first question, I think, was from Andrew about license acquisition and custom data to request for license from third-party DRM providers to test DRM content. So you said yes.
Yes.
What to say about that?
Yes, so in the configuration JSON file there is a separate field for the LA license acquisition URL, so you can just insert your own and test it that way. So it supports, let's say now I forget the correct term, but you can acquire the license via external URL, or then you can just modify the MPD and embed it inside the MPD. But using the external URL is probably more common. But yes, it's possible. Short answer is yes.
Thank you. And then I'm going to assume, Andrew, that answered your question since you said yes. And Waka asked about how to get it going in a TV.
Yeah, so there is basically you need to know something about how to signal an application to an HbbTV terminal. So it's basically using an AIT URL, application information table, but we are providing also MPEG-2 transport stream that includes this information already. So everything you need is just a streamer to play out the transport stream, and then a device, TV or set-top box that supports the HbbTV specification in some way. So that should be enough. But it's also working in a browser environment more or less, but that's not the main focus for the application.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for that. So we have a question from Gregor, which is there a validation tool for HbbTV1 style continuous download streams? We still operate a CDN for legacy HbbTV streaming due to the large number of TV sets in use that aren't fully Dash compliant. And the answer to that is I don't know. I don't know if anybody else happens to know of anything that exists that might address that. It certainly wasn't in the scope of the validator tool, because that's based on the Dash IF validation platform. I don't know if anybody else can answer that question in the chat, or you or Waka, do you have any knowledge of anything?
So if the problem is somehow related to having content that doesn't have an accompanying MPD, like a Dash style MPD, but this tool still is only checking MP4 files, right? So it does check, provide checks for ISO-based media file format tools, but the UI that you see is obviously, as Bob has pointed, clearly directly supports only a Dash MPD. So it might have to be refactored a bit to support another format.
Okay, thanks, Waka. I mean, it's worth mentioning and making this clear. So the source code for the tool is available for GitHub, and as you say, there are components within it. So if you don't have an MPD as an entry point, the other components could be usable, maybe with a little bit of work to adapt for the file. But if it's ISO-BMF, then as you say, there's components. Is it worth sort of saying, do you know of people who are actually using this in a production context, using the validator in a production workflow context to validate anything?
Is this Bob?
For you, a question for you, Waka, yeah.
No, I'm not aware of. So nobody is directly informed us of this.
Okay, but in principle, the idea is that the components can be downloaded and built locally and run locally, right?
I know that people are using it locally, right? But how well integrated this is in their chains is what I don't know. So locally, people are downloading it and using it. And as you mentioned, there are components in this tool. So you rightly mentioned that there is a Dash front-end interface to it, and then on the back end, there are tools that are checking MP4 file validation. So yeah, this lends itself to be used in different purposes, but
yeah. So from a HbbTV perspective, I can talk a little bit about where we expect to go next. Does anybody have any final questions? I can't see any further questions on the chat.
I can comment on the reference app that you can use this to play out the old style streams as well. We are actually using it to play out transfer streams and from the broadband connection and also MP4 files. So you can build your own configuration file to try it out. But that's not directly related to validation. But anyway, you can use this as a normal or old style player as well. The code should support it.
Okay, thanks for that. All right. I think that's about it then from the questions for as I can see. Thanks again everybody for joining in. I hope this has shed a light on a little bit of the tooling and aids to interoperability that HbbTV has produced or commissioned. I should say thanks to Dvbe, who contributed time and effort in the requirements for the validator and co-funded it with HbbTV, and we appreciate HbbTV's support there. And of course it was built on a base of implementation and code that was initiated by the -IF, and we're grateful to the -IF support in allowing us to extend and build on their tools. So thanks to the various other organizations that have helped with these tools. And HbbTV had we commissioned a survey just recently asking for feedback on the tools, and we had lots of interesting comments. Many people using the tools. We're aware that at least in a few instances, issues have been uncovered and isolated with the benefit of these tools. And we asked for feedback on what the next most important items might be to add to this. And those were, for the reference application, more examples of advert insertion, and for the validator to extend it to the more recent Dvbe-spec profile published. And so we're looking into doing that. It's no guarantee at this stage the scope of that yet. We're not able to commit to anything just yet, but that's our view of where we might take these tools next. And I encourage people who have an interest in any of those things and want to see things appear in them that the IITF would love to hear from you. And then I think if we're done and there's no further questions, I'll thank everybody very much for your time and wrap it up about here. So thanks everybody. We'll make sure that the recording is available and the slides available on the HbbTV website as soon as possible following this webinar. Thanks everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.